In this video, I want to discuss an emotional state we call regret, and the hindrance that comes with that idea. I'd also like to share why living a life of regretlessness has served me well in life, and why it might be useful to you as well. According to Google, the definition of regret is defined as the feeling of sadness, repentant, or disappointment over something one has done or failed to do. I think we all know a person around us, or on the internet, who always parrots the idea, something to the likes of, "You only live once, so live in such a way that you leave no regrets behind." If you read that sentence carefully, they are also saying that regret is a possible experience. It's like saying, if you didn't do X, then you will feel a sense of disappointment. Usually, people who reiterate thoughts like that become the ones who promote the manifestation of regret into a reality in the lives of others. Think of the parent who tells his or her child, if you don't become a doctor, you'll regret it because you'll be poor and socially worthless. We've all seen some influencer, some parent, and some friends who keep reinforcing this idea when we're around them. These people are the best examples of those who sell the idea of regret in order to get you to bend towards a certain trajectory of their liking, instead of assisting you to manifesting a life treading on a trajectory that best represents you. But what if, someday, everyone's mind elevates to the point where regret is no longer an emotion that can be experienced? What if we recalibrate our minds to see regret in a different light? What if we shift our vibrations to the level where regret becomes a non-accessible emotional option and a thought or an emotion impossible to manifest? So instead of saying, not doing X leads to a sense of disappointment, people instead go around encouraging one another saying, since you didn't do X, instead of feeling regret or disappointed, why don't we try figuring out what you want to do next? What would life then look like? You see, there are thousands of YouTubers, influencers, writers, and philosophers of the past and present who first try to ingrain the idea of regret in your mind, and then after that, try to sell you their books and products as a means to help you avoid regret at all costs. It's like, regret was a beast chasing after you, and you use their products and books to help you avoid the beast, so to speak. But in reality, if you were calm enough to assess the circumstance, this beast doesn't exist. If you were just busy with your own thing, not influenced by these people, and you are grateful and contented for whatever you have, and what little time you were given on earth, chances are, even if death arrives tomorrow, you leave this world with no regrets, not because you read some book and followed someone's instruction, and thus didn't regret, but instead because your mind naturally defaults to the idea that, I will regret nothing that I do, and so you never feel like your death is a scary thing to experience. This topic can be controversial, and it isn't easy to discuss, because psychopathic criminals may have the same tendency to look at a certain situation with no remorse and no regret. And that's where compassion comes into play. Compassion is usually defined as sympathetic pity for others. But to me, the way I define compassion is one's ability to understand the self and others, and know how your own capabilities can function reasonably to contribute to making a person or a situation better, in whatever way possible, and also the ability to act on it. The key difference between a regretless criminal who lives with the desire to see others fall and a regretless human being who lives for doing good is that the former lives a regretless life out of a place of lack, whereas the latter lives from a place of abundance. A criminal's attachment to things works in such a way that, if he were to stop what he's currently doing, he would feel irritated and would rather continue to harm others, instead of just remaining silent and happy with doing nothing. Whereas when a compassionate human who naturally assumes abundance and contentment to not act is always an option, he is happy with doing nothing than to be captivated by the urge to act on harming another. If one were to live life passionately, combining both compassion and regretlessness as a singular unified force, then life surely will offer much in return. So, what exactly is a life of regretlessness like? To know how that works, first we have to see how regret works. When someone makes a mistake, usually regret looks like this. You make an attempt. The attempt fails. And when reflecting on this failure or mistake, the emotion that accompanies it is a lingering sense of doubting the past, always attaching resentment and a sense of disappointment to every self-assessment. The way I define failure is that the attempt was not able to evoke an outcome according to expectation. A negative emotion, often as self-blame, occurs as a result of the failure. Here's an example. You're trying to learn a foreign language, and so you enter into a foreign language learning chat room in some random app, like Discord or something. And now you're talking to strangers that you know nothing about. Your personality could be that you naturally have the tendency to joke about things. But as you're speaking, a stranger in the same chat room hears your joke and rages at you, as if you've committed an unforgivable sin for speaking a joke about their culture. But perhaps, because it was you trying to learn a foreign language, so you were not aware of the consequences that the joke entails, so you spoke it not out of ill will. This is a clear case of a mistake that people make without intentionally trying to harm another. Nonetheless, some people in this case would fall into the regret trap and begin to self-deny opportunities to try again. Instead of becoming braver to refine the joke, they restrict themselves out of a fear of offending another person. Usually this form of regret that occurs after a mistake eventually may manifest as turning a person subservient by restricting his courage to speak his mind in the future. So from that point after the mistake, they stop honestly expressing their feelings or thoughts to others and stop being the person who likes to speak humor in front of everyone else, even though others they speak to may not have the same tendency to rage at them. This may end in a self-restricting cycle of negative thoughts, such as, "Oh, I shouldn't have joined the room. Oh, I shouldn't have learned so-and-so language. Oh, I should not have downloaded the app," and so on, creating the perfect recipe for disaster, making a typical case for the idiom, penny wise, but pound foolish, or spoiling the ship for half penny's worth of tar. It's a mindset that denies all the good for a minuscule event called a mistake. It's evident here that regret causes this person to learn less and experiment with less, thus restricting his desire to explore other ways to unfold his curiosity and pursue his passion, merely to appease one person or one past event that created the source of regret. The way the mindset of regretlessness helps is by defaulting the mind into the state that reminds itself, "I don't regret my mistakes. I will feel no sadness, remorse, or disappointments about what I did. I will only assess how to create a better outcome of the future." If the mind is thinking in that mode, it simply moves on without any emotional baggage and continues to explore its passion. Another way regret controls us is commonly seen when we're pushed to make choices between two options. A good example of this is when a person looking for a job has been offered by two companies to work for them, but is allowed to only choose one. In this case, people tend to have the tendency to overthink which option is better, fearing that they would regret after making a choice. But eventually, even after a choice is made, and the choice failed to evoke the outcome they were expecting, they sink into sadness and regret, reminiscing and fantasizing the other option, thinking that it would have given them what they want if they chose it. But in reality, no one knows if the other option was also, perhaps, just another option bound to fail. We humans have this tendency to wastefully burden ourselves with the emotion of regret. The way the mindset of regretlessness helps is that your mind defaults to the state of knowing, no matter what option I picked, there's no regret, only learning. In the case of going for the wrong job, a state of regretlessness simply means you were able to calmly realize what your character is and isn't, and how the world reflects back to you as a consequence of you being that character. Whether you choose to refine it, to evoke a better outcome or not, totally depends on whether you want a better outcome. If a person is contented, he is always ready to say, "Okay, I'm happy where I am, everything is good." And for a person with this mindset, if he were to die tomorrow, it wouldn't bother him because he is at peace with himself. And to be in regretlessness all the time means to have the heart, mind, and soul that behaves in such a manner that death is nothing to fear, even if it comes in the next moment. But as one sits in that state, he gets to choose if he's passionate enough to try another option. If he is passionate enough, he surely will, even if the next attempt still fails him, and he will try again, passionately but not obsessively. The key difference between a passionate person and an obsessive person is that a passionate person allows an outcome to mismatch their expectations and is contented with himself. So he allows himself to experience any outcome without regret. He is only focused on doing the act and crosses any bridge when he comes to them, whereas an obsessive person is always unable to remain contented with any outcome other than the minuscule one he's looking for, so his inability to accept any other way an outcome unfolds creates resentment, anger, sadness, disappointment, and most of all, regret. It's good that we all learn to be highly passionate, but never obsessed. Everyone has expectations, but to be in the regretless state of mind, one just needs to have an idea of possible outcomes, but expect nothing despite knowing what these possible outcomes are, and just be passionate to pursue what he wants, regardless of which outcome he ends in. I would say, the idea of worrying about regretting something tends to motivate inaction more than action. The moment this theme of regret becomes a highlight or a concern, already does mean the element of fear is at play, and fear is the best way you hold others or yourself captive. There are many more ways this mindset of regretlessness can liberate us from our fears. The examples in this video are not an exhaustive list of all possibilities. And regretlessness is by no means the only way to help life be more filled with contentment. But for me, this mindset has helped me gone through many struggles, and I believe it will provide insights for some people, so I decided to share it with you guys here, hoping that it helps someone out there who is struggling to find contentment in life. I hope you found this to be helpful. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Live passionately but never obsess. Regretlessness is your friend. I'm Aphorised. Thanks for watching.